BBC Scotland, the story of one of pop music's most controversial groups, the KLF. This is It Up Unwrapped.
Scottish pop music is an eclectic lineup of punks, hipsters, anarchists, entrepreneurs, and global phenomena. But behind every one of these musicians, there's a tale to tell. This is the story of the KLF. Pop music can be a place of passion and creativity, but above all, it's a money-making industry fueled by image and exploitation. In the late 80s and early 90s, two men and one band took on this industry, showing just how bloated and ridiculous it was, all the while playing it at its own game and winning. The men were Bill Drummond and Jimmy Cauty. The band was the KLF.
I was lying on the floor with the music in my head.
As a teenager, I would read about Bill Drummond all the time in music magazines. It took me ages to kind of piece together who he did and why he had so much notoriety. But he moved to Liverpool, become very involved in the music scene there with a band big in Japan, and then become part of Zoo Records. And then he went to work for WEA as an A&R man.
The way that he has spoken about his time there, you would think it was putting out the worst music imaginable. But he was putting out singles by Echo and the Bunnymen.
Under a blue moon I saw you, so soon you'll take me.
Bill Drummond was managing Echo and the Bunnymen. He sent them on a tour of ley lines, sending them to go and play in whatever, somewhere that wasn't particularly helpful to your chart career, just because it was creating magic. Very cosmic.
Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin. When you go, well, you say bye.
During his cosmic voyage as a label exec, Bill also encountered a certain pair of bespectacled twins from Edinburgh.
Bill was one of the guys who actually got us our first publishing deal, and he was a supporter from really the start, from the very first acoustic tour that we did. So he was a big help.
Whilst at Warner's, Bill was signing artists that he really believed in, but he was becoming rapidly disillusioned with the business.
He really, really wanted to launch this band called Brilliant, and he totally believed in them. He was working with Stock Aitken and Waterman, and he put about £500,000 into it, and then it totally failed. And I think he just was over it. He didn't want to do it anymore. So he quit. Within 5 days, he wrote this album, The Man,
which included a song called Julian Cope is Dead.
Julian Cope is dead. I shot him in the head. If he moves some more, I'll kill him for sure. Now Julian Cope is dead.
Is this a total piss take, or is he trying to be a serious artist? It was really hard to know. But I mean, if you heard the record, it was kind of serious music, but they just didn't quite sit right.
I've got in the annals of rock, until I got wise and hatched out my plan. I put notes all they'd have got.
It's a really sardonic, parochial piss take.
And it doesn't sound anything like what he went on to do with it. But that's part of the charm of it, you know. Doing the unexpected was something that the KLF were really brilliant at.
Bigger than the Beatles for sure.
Bill's album The Man was supposed to be his one and only dalliance with releasing his own music, but then he was overcome by a vision for a new band.
He took Cauty, who was in the band Brilliant, into the early manifestations of the KLF.
But before Bill and Jimmy would become the KLF, they were known as the Justified Ancients of Moo Moo, or the Jams.
We're back again, they never kicked us out. 20,000 years of shout, 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 with a beatbox rhythm and a shipyard rhyme, with a hundred MCs on the River Clyde.
I got the very first single, which was, I think it was called All You Need Is Love. And it was like kind of Bill Drummond kind of rapping a really kind of very, very Scottish and quite hard sounding way. And it was such a strange, bold and brilliant record.
And I love those records, they were ridiculous. In hindsight, it's terrible, but at the time it was quite innovative. Obviously, sampling was becoming something that was being talked about a lot, and this was one of the first examples of DIY sampling, because sampling technology up to that point had been only in the hands of those with vast amounts of money and resources.
All we had was like a really cheap sampler, like a Greengate sampler, and we just went in and banged it down. It was not very sophisticated at all.
As fast as possible. Not enough of, we were just sort of rolling around in the studio laughing, throwing things in. That'll do, this'll do, that'll do, like that. As fast as we could do it.
This rough and ready approach led to Bill and Jimmy stumbling onto their first #1 as they regenerated into a brand new form, the Timelords.
Now we've had glam rock, hard rock and lovers rock, but now meet car rock. The current #1 song on the pop charts this week is allegedly the brainchild of a newcomer to the British music scene, an American police car called Ford Timelord. I must say it's a great honour that you're able to join us. What made you think that this song was going to be such a mega hit?
Well, firstly, good morning to you. It's great to be here at Biggin Hill. The song was all my idea. And we made a great record.
Check out Bill and Jimmy here, both playing bass guitars in true Spinal Tap fashion. And keep an eye out for the Daleks' wee feet.
The Timelords with the Doctor Who sample and the Gary Glitter sample, they probably regret that now. But
I mean, again, that record is terrible, but it was great at the time. I mean, I loved it. It was fantastic because it was ridiculous.
Most of the reviews of something like Doctor of the TARDIS were like, it's absolute garbage. But that was kind of the point.
It was quite a serious time in music, and I think it kind of needed something like that to come along. And then the fact that it suddenly became this monster hit was insane, and then they milked it for all it was worth.
it was quite cynically made to make money, I mean, which they talked about themselves.
We were going to make a dance record. We just wanted to make a house record using the Doctor Who theme tune, and Jimmy had been working on some rhythms for it. And he played it to me in the car while we were driving out the studio. And I said, we can't put, that's a glitter beat. We can't have a glitter beat or a house record. That won't work at all. And so we spent the first 2 days in the studio struggling, and it was totally depressing. And then on the third day, we realised we got a #1 single.
Yeah, we just had to go with it in the end. We were trying to make it into a kind of quite a hip kind of record, but it just wasn't happening. So we just thought, right, it's going to be poppy. Let's go for it. And we went the whole hog.
And actually use the sort of novelty aspect of it, or the
novelty.
Doctor in the TARDIS went to #1 and stayed there for 1 week. But Bill and Jimmy capitalised on this success, turning the experience into a book about how to make your very own #1 single.
This is the new thing from the cranial recesses of Bill Drummond, the manual, How to Have a #1 the Easy Way.
If you don't get a #1, we will refund the price of the book.
After the Timelords record was a #1 last year, and we were going, oh my goodness, how on earth does this happen? So we thought we'd sit down and write a book and find out, and pretend that we actually knew what we were doing, and call it the manual, How to Have a #1 the Easy Way.
It's already happened.
Yeah.
Edelweiss, remember that record? They followed the instructions in the book.
Well, apparently some Swiss act, the Edelweiss, was it? Yeah, they did buy the book, read it, followed all the steps, and had a #1 hit, so it must work.
But Bill and Jimmy were about to deviate from overt profiteering and begin writing proper music, now rebranded as the KLF.
The Timelords, so I guess they made a ton of money with the Timelords, and then the next thing was these 12-inch singles started appearing, the first one being What Time Is Love, Pure Trance 1. And it's, to this day, one of my all-time favourite records. You're just like, wow. They've invented this new style. It's not acid house, it's something different. They fitted in very well with the explosion of people taking ecstasy. The original What Time Is Love is quite an ecstasy record.
Thousands of youngsters queue in sub-zero temperatures at a venue in central Scotland. The event, an all-night marathon dance session.
3 a.m. Eternal. It's the kind of come down period of the night, and I guess that was a theme that they were making records for different parts of the night. What Time Is Love is the big build-up of the night, 3 a.m. Eternal is the later periods, and then Last Train to Trans Central is the way very late in the morning period. Something as a DJ I was playing every set. They were like kind of holy grails of that kind of early development of British dance music.
Okay, so, full transparency here. The KLF are only half Scottish. Bill Drummond is from Newton Stewart, but his partner in crime, Jimmy Cauty, is English. Hailing from Devon, Jimmy, aka Rockman Rock, was the musical brains behind the KLF.
Yeah, there's a good kind of groove on this one. I'm sure we can, yeah. I mean, everybody's using it, but it is good.
That's the more reason for using it.
Yeah.
The music side came from Jimmy Cauty, probably. I think the crazy ideas and the personality in the KLF all came from Bill Drummond. But I mean, they worked with other engineers and producers as well, but I think, yeah, Jimmy was probably the keeping the musical side of it together.
But even though the KLF were making some well-regarded, if slightly niche, records, it would be in the world of pop that their anti-establishment vision would truly come to fruition. And they did this by boldly ripping off themselves.
They'd made these like cult records that were huge underground club anthems, and then they turned these into pop hits. They had cheesy raps, they literally had this formula of everything you can imagine. They threw everything but the kitchen sink at these records. My gut feeling is they didn't think that this was going to be a hit. It was just pursuing what they were doing. They liked the idea of remixes. It was an important part of dance music culture, and they did the first one, and then it just went supernova.
Remarkably, for such a weird band, they became the biggest selling singles act in the world in 1991, which might go some way to explain The Crowns.
The bombast of them, I think, resonated with people. They had hooks that just locked into people's heads and stayed there and helped them propel them to uber stardom. And I think they were making serious music, but they were also making music that had a huge fun element to it, which is why it captured so many people's imagination. It spoke to as many people as any band ever did as well.
The mechanics of selling that is based on kind of making people believe something's more than it actually is. And the KLF were very good at that.
What's the one with Tammy Wynette? Justified and Ancient. Yeah, that's brilliant.
You know, when I saw them later on things like Top of the Pops, and he would be dressed as giant ice cream cones, or we'd have like these robes on with big horns coming out of them and things. I was like, thank goodness for like people like this. It's not boring.
Everyone looked like they were having the time of their lives. The videos they made, the energy and the devotion they put into those, into making those as big productions. There's a video to What Time Is Love America. Who knows how much money they spent on that? They must have spent hundreds of thousands of pounds building this boat.
It's just the madness of it. They were just making it up as they went along, and I think that's what I really like about it.
We're just trying to maybe push things a bit further, push ourselves as far as we could go, do the best thing that we possibly could do at any given time, and just see how far we could possibly go, you know, with an idea.
And in 1992, they decided that they had indeed pushed the idea of the KLF as far as they could. So, rather than stumble into irrelevance, they decided to destroy it all.
From London's Hammersmith Odeon, one of the greatest venues for live music over the past 60 years, the British record industry, in association with the Britannia Music Club, presents the Brits 1992.
The Brit Awards was just genius.
This is television freedom.
They won the best British group, which is amazing, hilarious. And when they got up on stage and performed with this like extreme heavy metal band, it was about turning up to the British recording industry establishment and just stick two fingers up. They had an assault rifle firing blanks, terrible health and safety. It had to come to an end point. It had to be an explosion, and that's what it was.
Not content with firing machine guns at the audience of musical luminaries, the KLF exercised their continued and unexplained sheep fetish and distaste for industry artifice by delivering a dead sheep to one of the Brit Awards after parties.
That was a bit grim, you know. I mean, I'm not a vegetarian or anything, but throwing a dead sheep about's a bit undignified as well.
But they were the band that had cried anarcho-situationist wolf one too many times, and no one believed that they had indeed retired. It was just assumed that this was another KLF prank. So, to avoid industry discombobulation, the KLF released the following statement.
We have been following a wild and wounded, glum and glorious, shit but shining path these past 5 years. The last 2 of which has led us onto the commercial high ground. We are at a point where the path is about to take a sharp turn away from these sunny uplands down into a netherworld of we know not what. For the foreseeable future, there will be no further record releases from the Justified Ancients of Moo, the Timelords, the KLF, and any other past, present and future name attached to our activities. As of now, all our past releases are deleted. If we meet further along, be prepared. Our disguise may be complete.
I suppose when they deleted their back catalogue, everything they do is a finger up to the industry that did them wrong in the first place, that they ignored and subverted and then drained money from while laughing at them.
If you delete your entire back catalogue, there is then no more income coming in, whereas their back catalogue would have gone on and on to sell for years and years to come. If they'd had their label still running, they would have kept pressing the records, particularly the album. As we then enter the digital age, they would be selling vast numbers of digital files. They would be making lots of money from streaming. So they have basically forgone who knows how many millions, tens of millions probably, of pounds by saying, no, our music is no longer available to purchase.
The contradiction at the heart of the KLF when it comes to money is not that they were making it in the first place, it's that they pumped it back into their art in ways that never pandered to the money in the first place.
And their only way of dealing with it, keeping their sanity, was to burn the money.
There you go. KLF's account, £1 million withdrawn.
To be honest, it all soured when they burnt that money. I just couldn't abide that.
I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have burnt £1 million. But I think as a statement, it was pretty interesting because, do you know what? Millions and millions of pounds, I don't mean are physically burnt, but are just like whittled away on complete crap all the time.
I just think it's quite an offensive thing to do. You know, it's £1 million. £1 million can mean a lot to a lot of people. So, you know, there are, you know, if you want to destroy money or you know, give it to a charity, do something with it, invest it in something. But physically burning it just seemed a bit ridiculous to me.
It didn't annoy me. It doesn't annoy me. I think it's as valid a thing to do as anything.
It seemed like the absolute arrogant, affluent thing to do. It's like when bands used to destroy their equipment. You know, it's like you're just showing off because you can. You know, I know they were trying to make a point about the value of pop music, you know, the value of money. And, you know, it seemed like they came from a place of privilege, doing something stupid to me.
The idea that every bit of money wasted or not used for something good could have been spent on something incredibly worthy is, I don't know, it's a bit po-faced, isn't it?
I think it was cool just because of the amount of the uproar it caused. You know, anything that causes an uproar is fine by me. I like anything that you know that starts a debate because it, you know, it questions a lot of things, and that's why they did it.
And it actually just shows you what's happened to the music industry. The idea of a band like the KLF getting £1 million. That's probably more amazing than them burning it.
it the 90s they did it? Yeah, that actually sums up the 90s when there's so much money around that you think it's going to be endless. I bet you they're regretting it now.
Every day you wake up and you go, oh God, yeah, okay, I've just burnt £1 million. Everybody, nobody thinks it's good. Everybody just thinks it's a complete waste of time. You know, everybody wants to know why you did it, and you can't tell them why you did it because you don't know why you did it.
As someone that was living on peanuts, very little money at the time, it seemed like a very wanton act. In hindsight, I don't know whether they actually did it or not, so I don't think we'll ever know.
Wow, stand mate, look. Don't attach it, you can see the 50 on that one there, look.
I don't believe for a minute that they burned that £1 million on Jura. I kind of know they didn't.
A friend of mine swept out the wee bothy where they burnt the money on Jura, so I know they definitely did it.
Well, you could get it analysed, I suppose. If you didn't believe that it was really £1 million, I suppose you could do that.
Oh, look at that.
I think it was the greatest stunt in the history of pop music.
Huh.
But crazy stunts aren't their only legacy. While surfing the KLF maelstrom like a couple of renegade maniacs, Bill and Jimmy produced one of the best and most seminal ambient albums of all time. Cue Twitter storm, Chill Out.
A lot of music from that time that was branded as ambient music has aged very badly. I think that's aged brilliantly. It still sounds very strong.
Chill Out was kind of like an instructive album. Everything was kind of like a cacophony in the pop charts. Everything, especially in dance music, was very hard, lots of like hard acid rhythms. And Chill Out was almost like, we've had enough.
It's sad, uplifting, just suits the mood of that chill out period after you've been at the club.
So, there you have it, the KLF. From the sublime to the ridiculous and all the way back again. During their career, Bill Drummond and Jimmy Cauty rode a runaway train all the way from Trans-Central to the Brits and the Inner Hebrides, setting the gold standard for what is possible in commercial pop. But apart from just being a legendary anti-establishment art project, their lasting legacy will be with us in the ambient annals of musical history forever. Or until they delete all music.
KLF were a great marriage of kind of punk art and music and slightly dubious sense of humours, you know, and that's what was great about them.
The KLF have always struck me as more of an art project than an actual pop band, but then there's pop art, so perhaps they're one of the most modern exponents of pop art itself.
KLF were like total and utter heroes. They kind of came from a great line of anarchic figures in music and carried that on to a degree perhaps that no one else had ever taken. So a lot of people had a lot of respect and still do for what they do. I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of love out there for them. It'll always be there.
Burning £1 million. What? I'm in tears if I lose a fiver. Oh, I'm trying to compose myself now. Well, next tonight on BBC Scotland, highlights of the Transmit 2018 festival. I can't believe that.